Can you set the stage for how you became the owner of Agent Nateur and what you went through with your health struggles when you were younger?
Absolutely. So I had painful cycles since I was 12, like since the onset of getting my period. It was unbearable all during high school. I would have to like miss school dances, and I would be in the nurse's office every month. And then when I was in my early 20s, I kind of just lived off of Aleve because that's what helped me. But then I had like severe pain in my side, and I went in for a CAT scan because at the time I didn't know that I should have really just gotten an MRI to avoid all of the radiation. So I had a CAT scan, and they discovered I had a 14 centimeter chocolate cyst. And that was on my left ovary. And so I had surgery. This was back in 2003. I had surgery with someone who really didn't understand how to operate on endometriosis. And she ended up giving me a laparotomy instead of a laparoscopy. So that a laparotomy is a C-section cut. And endo should never be operated on that way because endo spreads. So if you don't get it out entirely, then you spread it to other areas. So that doctor in particular, she was very rough, and she scraped my tubes and my ovaries, and I was in burning pain for, I would say, about 9 months after the surgery. And because of that surgery, I believe, and other doctors believe, that she caused adenomyosis to form, which adenomyosis is endo that grows in the muscle of the uterus. And usually women only generally have it, or are more common to have it if they've had children or if they've had C-sections. So the way it can transfer is through a C-section cut, because you're basically spreading it. When you make that surgical incision, you can spread the endo to the muscle of the uterus. And so after that surgery, I needed another surgery 5 years later from someone in New York. His name is Dr. Kanayama, and he was known to be the best surgeon at the time. And he did a good job in getting all of the remnants of the endometriosis out. And he told me that she had just left a ton of scar tissue and that she was extremely rough with me. And after that, 2 years later, I developed a hydrosalpinx from either the endo or from the surgery itself. A hydrosalpinx is when the tube closes due to all scar tissue. So my right fallopian tube closed. And I had basically at that point, that was in 2010, and I started seeing this holistic dermatologist, and she's really a functional doctor. And she really started teaching me about how all of these surgeries were causing so much scar tissue to form. And she put me on a supplement. She put me on MSM, which I'm actually releasing with Dr. Will Cole. So she put me on MSM to break up the scar tissue. And she told me, she's like, the pain you're having right now is from scar tissue. It's actually not from endometriosis. And I said, well, do you have a good gynecologist that I can see in LA? And she's like, I don't even know where to send you because I don't even trust any of them. So I went to 3 gynecologists. This was back in 2010. And they said, oh, your uterus is twisted. You have a tilted uterus. It's your endometriosis. And I said, it's not. I said, the pain it's my right tube and it feels like somebody's twisting it. And they told me, they're like, you don't know where your tube is. That's not true. Like, it's not your tube. So anyway, I was fighting with like 3 doctors at the same time. And so I found this one surgeon from USC, and I was very hesitant to go into surgery. She said, let me just do an exploratory surgery, because I was in agonizing pain where I was at the ER for like 3 cycles, like flipping out in so much pain, like unbearable. They were like, at the time, if they were giving me morphine, if you go to the ER now for endo, they'll treat it with something else. And I can't think of the name. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank, but they won't give you morphine anymore. And they think that endo patients are really just going to the ER because we want to get high or we wanted to get morphine, which the morphine would just take the edge off. It wouldn't even make me high. That's how bad the pain was. It was so excruciating. Anyway, she went in for the exploratory surgery. She said, your endo is gone. She said, but your tube is closed. So I drained the tube. You have a hydrosalpinx. You were right. It was the tube. She said, I want to remove your tubes, but I didn't have consent. And I'm like, do not remove my tubes. And so I actually started going to Orange County, and I was doing something called the Warren technique, where a practitioner will actually physically go inside and manually massage the fallopian tubes to open them. And I had a lot of success with doing that and with doing the MSM and with taking systemic enzymes to break down the scar tissue. And then after that, I was good, pain-free, I would say for 4 years, 0 pain. And then all of a sudden, the pain started with a vengeance, like 9 years ago, almost 9 years ago in January. And then that's when my doctors were saying avoid antiperspirant in deodorant because it's an endocrine disruptor and it can mimic estrogen. And I had enough estradiol, like my number was a 965. I think it should be between like, I don't know, 1 and 200. So I had 5 to 9 times the amount of estrogen that I should have had. So my first step was finding a deodorant, which I couldn't find one to work. So I started making my own. I had no idea that I was going to turn it into a company, but all of my friends were like, can I have more of that deodorant because it really works? And that's how Agent Nateur was birthed, basically.
And that's how it came about, all through the deodorant and heavy metals. 3 things come to mind with that story, and I'll go over quickly. Is number one, surgery and scar tissue are serious things. Like surgery, I know we push for it in conventional medicine, like, hey, you have this, let's go into surgery, we'll just cut it out. I mean, my father started off in surgery and anesthesiology and went into pain medicine and then finally into integrative medicine over the last 30, 40 years. But he said it's a barbaric thing sometimes to cut open the body, like you said, to scrape. And sometimes it's really vicious. It's like putting muscle, and you're even if you're under, your body still has a cellular memory. It's a lot of, pain and trauma that happen in surgery. So to go through those and to be acknowledged later on of, hey, that surgery left you in pain, not the endometriosis, is something that's not shocking to me, but probably to a lot of people. Number 2, the fact that doctors didn't believe you, and you were right. It happens too much, right? Where doctors don't trust patients and us as a whole, but we're supposed to put the trust in the doctors. And then when things go wrong, oh, well, and then it should have listened to you and your body, which you should know best, even more so than any doctor. That's a scary thought that I think medicine really needs to change. And the third one is how many damn endocrine disruptors there are in everyday products. Like you said, we don't know that, but so many people listen, Air double, like all of them have aluminum in them, right?